Hello and welcome to the Cricketers Playbook podcast. I'm your host, Tim Williams. We're here to recap the world in cricket, and we're doing it on New Year's Eve. The podcast doesn't stop. Why? Because we had to get it out, because Australia produced a famous victory in the Boxing Day Test against the Indians in an absolute cracker in front of an absurdly large crowd. I think there was more Indians there than there was Australians, but that's okay. The winner on the day was Test cricket. Here with me to discuss it today is Cricket Australia commentator, former Sydney Sixers media manager, the Suleiman Ben of Sydney grade cricket, Max Bryden. Maxie, how are you, mate?
G'day, Tim. G'day, viewers. Man, I'm doing well. What a test match. What a series. What a summer this has been. And you might be able to tell I've got the shirt on at the moment. I'm on a beach holiday myself, but the beach had to wait for a couple of hours yesterday afternoon while we watched the dramatic endings of that test match. And it just showed you how fantastic test cricket can be. So, man, I'm up and about. Very excited to be here today.
Yeah, you could not look any more in beach mode at all than you do right now. Those buttons getting looser by the minute. That shirt will be off by the end of this episode, guys. It is just myself and Maxie on today's show. Rando, our other regular co-host on this show, he's on holidays with the family in New Zealand, so we've cut ties with him. But he has helped us out with the World Team of the Week, and he's found a few selections there, so all good. But we are running solo for the New Year's Eve edition of the Cricketers Playbook podcast. Guys, if you are watching on YouTube, do us a big favor and subscribe to the channel. You know, if you're listening on Spotify, Apple, like and subscribe there. But yeah, the big one down there, do us a favor, subscribe to our YouTube channel if you're enjoying the show. On today's show, to that point, we review the major talking points from Australia's dramatic Boxing Day Test victory against India. We talk about that stunning debut of Sam Konstas, setting the world alight. We look at the Jaiswal run out. Who was at fault? Was it he or was it Virat Kohli? And what this all means for the World Test Championships. Rohit Sharma, big talking point out of the Indian camp. Do they need to make the tough call and axe him for Shubman Gill moving forward and for that final and deciding test of the series? We're moving our attention to the Big Bash, looking at the Melbourne Stars, wondering why they are one of the most underperforming teams in Australian sport, not just cricket, but Australian sport. Basically gone from the BBL this year, barring a miracle. Rando Strats Trivia is brought to you this week by me. I'm just going to fang a couple of little questions at Maxi and see if he can lift his game after some pretty underwhelming weeks. He's got no opposition against him, so there'll be no pressure on you, Maxi. You'll be fine. I think you'll be good today. And then we'll, of course,
Fingers crossed.
We'll then go into the best performances in world cricket over the past week to name our World 11 with the race to the Mace heating up for the upcoming summer of cricket. We'll also name our monthly winner of the race to the Mace. Now, Maxi, let's get into the good stuff, and it is the Australia versus India Boxing Day Test recap. We'll start with a quick recap, though, of the World Test Championships, because South Africa just beat Pakistan by two wickets at Centurion to book their ticket to the World Test Championships final. They are locked in. They'll be playing, you would imagine, Australia or India. A few little things can play out. I think Sri Lanka is still alive in it. But yes, basically, moving into the Sydney Test, if Australia win it, they are locked in. They will face South Africa. If it's a draw or a loss, it comes down to that Sri Lankan series. But Australia can book their ticket to Lords with a win in that one there. Australia v India. They knocked off the Indians by 184 runs late on day 5 at the MCG. There were 74,000 people there on day 5 of that test match. Remarkable. Smashed attendance records. 374,000 people through the gates across the 5 days of that test match. Maxi, it beat the previous record at the MCG set in 1937, I think it might have been. It was a Don Bradman-led side that was over 6 days of cricket. They had an extra day to get people in the door, and we still beat it this year. So for anyone thinking that Test cricket is dead, you're dreaming. Look at those numbers. Now, I suppose, Maxie, just your general thoughts on the Test, because it was remarkable for so many different reasons. What did you make from it all?
This was a game that ebbed and flowed in a way which has been so symbolic of this series to date. And I know personally, after that third day where India batted the entire day, they only lost, I think it was 4 wickets in the entire day. I was sitting there pulling my hair out, ready to point the finger at the curator and say, we've got to sort this out. We've got a big problem here in Australia with too many drawn tests. But the game was really brought to life for me on that 4th day by Jasprit Bumrah. And despite the advantage that the Australians took from that first innings lead with thanks to Steve Smith's fantastic 140, It was really his opening spell and
Mm.
just ripping the heart of that Australian middle order this time, not just the top order, but the middle two, which really breathed life into this game. And even into that last session, it still felt like maybe there was going to be no result possible up until Rishabh Pant lost his mind and tried to spank Travis Head up to Sydney. But this was a game worthy of this series to date, and I think the result went the right way in the end. It was probably reflective of how dominant the Australians have been, not just in this Test, but at the Gabba too. But it made for just the most amazing spectacle. And as you said, Test cricket, when it's good, gee, it's bloody amazing. What do you think of it, Tim?
Yeah, it was phenomenal, mate. Just the whole spectacle of the Test, and you speak about Bumrah breathing life into it in day 4, but Sam Konstas was the talking point, leading into it, coming out of it, all sorts of things. This teenage prodigy, the 19-year-old from Sydney, came out Boxing Day morning and breathed life into Test cricket. Not from our point of view, Maxie. We love it. We love Test cricket. We don't need convincing of how good it is, nor do the people that attended the game. But I sat there Boxing Day morning, all excited for it, see what Konstas could produce. He came out and hit 60 off 65. He tried to reverse ramp Jasprit Bumrah. He went 0 from 3. The best bowler in the world, showed no fear. He came storming out onto the field, took strike, did all these great things. A young man under all this pressure, should have been under pressure. It didn't look like he felt it. Stuck to his guns and put together a remarkable innings. And I was sitting there with my partner, my mum was with me, and they were sitting there, not big cricket fans. They don't mind it, forced into it from years of just repetitious watching with the boys. But they were sitting there and they couldn't get off their feet watching Konstas and what was being produced there. And I'm sure I've heard lots of stories from other people whose friends, not into cricket, were just glued to the TV screen watching Konstas hit 60 off 65. He's got charisma, he's got confidence, he's got flamboyance mixed with technique. It was a spectacular injection of energy, I think, to Test cricket across the world, but certainly for Australians as well, that traditionally might not be that involved in the cricket scene. He feels like almost our answer to Jaiswal. Not necessarily as good a player, and there's a lot more to do to match what Jaiswal's done, but just this flamboyant, energetic, confident young fella. Mate, talk to us about Sam Konstas. What did it mean to you watching that innings?
I think that we have spent this entire summer so far trying to solve the riddle that has been Jasprit Bumrah. And it hasn't just been the Australian Test team, it's been the entire country. Every day there are articles printed from journalists, cricket experts, former players giving their advice as to how do you defend against this man? How do you score runs? And it really just took the exuberance of youth to come out and say, well, have you tried ramping it? Like, have you tried this unconventional method that no one's ever thought of? I mean, I've listened to hours of chatter about how to do this, and this man did something which I think for me drew comparisons to what we've heard so often about Steve Smith, which is being a problem solver. Often when you hear the talk from his teammates or those who really know their game, they talk about Steve Smith being one of the world's great problem solvers when it comes to conditions, when it comes to bowlers, when it comes to scoring all around the world. And Konstas, that's what he really brought to this game, which I think is a huge compliment to his potential future. The way that he was able to throw off not only Jasprit Bumrah, but the entire Indian plans really laid the platform for Usman Khawaja to find some confidence and to find some more runs. It really laid the platform for Marnus Labuschagne to go out there and take the fight to India. Such an underrated comeback from him as well in this Test match in both innings with his ability to score runs. So I thought he was fantastic. I thought it really showed a great summary of what he's done so far this summer, not only coming out in the first Shield match of the season and scoring 2 centuries, but the way that he went down into Australia A, he didn't score any runs opening the batting, so he went down to number 4 and he scored some runs then. And also to mention his performance for the Prime Minister's 11 in Canberra, scoring a century against a very similar Indian attack against the pink ball, and what he did with the big bash, going into a white ball in a format that he'd never played at the highest level and scoring a 50 on debut. So this guy seems to have all bases covered, but I think it is worth, as you mentioned, reflecting on that Jaiswal, because it just feels like this fantastic rivalry that we've got between Australia and India. Those two are going to be at the forefront for the next decade, and I could not be more excited for more chapters to be written in this compelling story.
Yeah, the next decade and the rest. And just the nature of the innings. When he went for those early, like, reverse ramps off Bumrah, if he misses any of that, well, he did miss a few of them. If they go on to hit the stumps or he sneaks off to the keeper, whatever it might be, and he gets out, he's crucified, mate. Like, they sit there and they go, this bloke should never play a test match for Australia again. What a disgrace to the baggy green. That would have been the headlines. We know it. We all know it. But he stuck to his guns and put off one of the more remarkable 60s I've ever seen in my life. But it's also a credit to Andrew McDonald, the coach, to Pat Cummins, the captain, the rest of the staff that said, mate, you've got our backing, play your natural game. They've obviously said, if you want to ramp, you ramp. That's what you feel confident doing. That's how you think you can get on top of Jasper Bumrah. And he did. And yeah, sure, there's a little bit of luck in those first few overs, but once he got his eye and they started to find the bat, it was incredible. Mate, let's get real crystal ball and let's have a bit of fun with this. Sam Konstas, 10 years' time, where is he? How many runs does he have? What stands in his way? We've seen early on in his career, despite his success, having some trouble with the in-swinger. What stands in his way from succeeding over the next 10 years, and what does it look like for you in 10 years' time?
I think to answer your first question, I don't think anything is going to stand in his way from being a player who can dominate in all formats. Such was his ability to look at the problem that was in front of him and figure out a way to make it work for him. As I mentioned, already in a short career, he's doing it against different opposition in different conditions, which is, I think, absolutely fantastic. So technically, I have no concerns because I feel like this is a man who's going to work out what's required in order to succeed. So I think if we're talking in 10 years' time, we could be talking 20 plus test centuries by the time he gets to his, well, he won't even be 30 in 10 years' time, which is the really exciting thing. But I think we're talking probably the best since Steve Smith. And I know that we've always said about Steve Smith that he's the best since Bradman. I'd be pretty big call to come out and say that this early, but I think we're genuinely talking about the next Australian great who it'll be really, really interesting to see how he's managed over the next little period, particularly with the upcoming tours overseas in Sri Lanka and whether he's given an opportunity. But this man, he has been spoken about in circles for 5+ years in Sydney cricket, and I think that the world has now seen what a lot of good judges have known for a little while, that this guy's ready to be the next great Australian batter.
Yeah, exactly. And the signs are so promising, and mate, that doesn't mean there won't be form slumps, because there will. That doesn't mean that he's never going to lose his spot in the team. The eye test and the ability suggests that he'll probably be here for the next 10 years and won't get dropped. But mate, there aren't many Australian Test cricketers in the history who haven't been dropped at some point, particularly early on in their career, and had to fight their way back into the team. It could happen. I hope it doesn't. I don't think it will. But the reality is, when these fresh-faced players come onto the scene, world cricket, they don't know their weaknesses, but they find them out quite quickly at this level. And as I mentioned, he's having a bit of trouble with the in-swingers that have gone through the gate a couple of times that we've seen. There will be issues, and it's going to be fascinating to see how he challenges them, how he gets on top of it. But yeah, mate, all signs are promising for Sammy Konstas. To the Indians, match-defining run-out, Jaiswal and Kohli. Jaiswal gets run out. My question here is, I thought, Maxi, clear as daylight, it was Virat Kohli's fault. He was at the non-strikers end. Jaiswal was running to the danger end. I was always taught in cricket, you hit in front of square, it's your call. If it goes behind square, it's the non-striker. Not just that, but it was like to mid-off. It was there. He was going to the danger end. Kohli backed up about 3 steps, got caught ball watching. Massive, massive moment in this game. I saw a lot of people out there saying, maybe it was Jaiswal's fault. How'd you see it? Because I thought it was on Virat Kohli, and I think he should have been backing up and running to the non-danger end, and it either should have been a single or Jaiswal diving for his life to make the single. How'd you see it?
Everything that you've said is correct in the sense that I feel that being in front of square, running to the danger end, it was certainly Jaiswal's call. I think that what probably the only defence really of Kohli, who, as we know now, has been involved in a lot of run-outs during his Test career, not many when he's actually had to walk off the pitch. He's grown a bit of a reputation of not doing too many favours to his partnering batsmen. But It's just probably the tightness of the single. I mean, I think that the ball went so close to the fielder that if anything, a really strong no call from Kohli would have solved any potential issue that was upcoming. And that's the thing with Test cricket. There's a lot of time in the game, and there's really no excuse for ever getting run out in a Test match unless something's gone wrong, because there is enough time in the game where you can be more patient. And I think he robbed that large Indian contingent at the MCG of seeing the future of their Test cricket raise his bat. Because up until that point, he had been rarely challenged. So it was a shame to see him run out, but I think that you can make a case either way. So technically, I think Kohli was in the wrong, but there's no excuse. Both batsmen are at fault.
Yeah, and it's a good point, mate. As I said, I'm pretty firm on it being Kohli's fault, but you're right. It's Test cricket. It was a damn tight single. It didn't need to be run in the first place. So, guys, you're trying to save a Test match here. Why did you try to run it in the first place? Anyway, that's another story. My next one to Jaiswal's second innings dismissal. Controversial one, Maxi. Very controversial. Edged to the wicketkeeper, Alex Carey. It looked to my eyes like a deflection for all money. Out. Snicko came up, the technology, DRS, Snicko had nothing on it. They stuck to their guns and they said, nah, we're back in the eye test. We think it's out. What do you think, mate? Firstly, did it come off the glove? And secondly, if you do think it came off the glove, the fact that there was nothing on Snicko, which way should it have gone? Because every Aussie I've spoken to have said it's 100% out. You can clearly see it. But I've seen a lot of Indians online that have said, nah, the Snicko said not out, so it should have been not out. How do you see it?
I think the one thing that you can only ask for as a sports fan when it comes to officials is clarity and consistency. And I think that in this process, that's why it's such a confusing and agitating issue. We have become reliant as cricket fans on Snicko working and effectively, being the lie detector for the batsman when we talk about these catches behind the wicket. We've also obviously gotten used to in previous years having a hotspot, and unfortunately it's not available in this series. Of a similar nature, we saw Jaiswal gets absolutely smashed on the pad in front by the Australians earlier, and it looked like it was going to knock leg stump clean out of the ground, but for some percentage of the ball factor, that was also an umpire's decision call. And I think that I've seen some really smart calls online for the umpires to reveal what percentage of the ball should be in the stumps. And I think that that's the issue I've got here, is just the lack of clarity and consistency for viewers of the game as to what is the right way to make this decision. Now, did it look like the ball came off the glove? Yes, it did. But then when you throw in Snicko and nothing off there, then all it adds to this confusion, which no doubt has got the Indians in uproar online just because of the inconsistency compared to other dismissals behind the wicket. So for that reason, I do feel a bit of sympathy for the Indians. There would have been a lot of confusion and conjecture, and of course, any excuse that they can find as to why this game has gone against them, they'll use. But again, eye test, don't want to hit the glove, and you've got to tell your story walking, champ.
Yeah, it absolutely hit it. But as you said, Maxi, if only there was like a deciding piece of technology. Eye test says out, Snicko says not out, hotspot. If there was hotspot there, it's one way or the other, it's going to confirm it for us. So disappointing it wasn't there. They had their reasons, but look, it is what it is. It's in the past now, and the test has been done and won. Mate, last one around the Indians and angle on their team going into this deciding test match. They have to win to retain the Border Gavaskar trophy and to keep their hopes of reaching the World Test Championship final alive. Rohit Sharma, their captain, out of form. That's an understatement. He's like seeing them like marbles at the moment. And a few stats around Rohit Sharma at the moment. He's had the most single-digit scores in a test season in history. That's among the top 7 batters, with 10 across his 15 innings. Virat Kohli, funnily enough, he's second with 9 single-digit dismissals in the 2024-25 test season of 2024. Sharma has the lowest batting average by a touring captain in a test series in Australian history in a minimum of 5 innings. He's averaging 6.2. So the question, Maxi, is, do they have to drop him for the 5th test if they want to win this, or do they stick by a bloke who's been one of their best players for over a decade. We know what he's done. He's earned a chance at having one final crack. But there's so much on the line. They've got Shubman Gill sitting there, a high-quality batsman who could come in and be a differentiator and change the game and change the series, the World Test Championship route, all of that sort of stuff. What do you think? Do you think India stick by Rohit Sharma for one more test, or do you think they make the tough call on their captain?
I think it's time for a tough call, absolutely. And I think it's not just the aging, eyes fading type dismissal that we get used to with these greats of the games when they're into their mid and late 30s, but the nature of his dismissals in this test match were, quite frankly, not up to it. That first innings for him trying to hoik a ball needlessly across the line early in the game and just spooning one to mid-wicket was the kind of way that I used to get out in the under 10s, and this is not against test match quality bowlers. So that there's something that just looks not right about him. It's not the same problems that we're seeing with Virat Kohli, where he's consistently getting caught behind, playing at balls in that fifth or sixth stump line that in the past he may have driven really comfortably to the boundary. This is batting that looks irresponsible. And I don't think that as the leader, it's the kind of example that he should be setting his team. Now, there's no doubt that he carries a lot of weight in that dressing room, and his management of the bowlers has been decent. And I think even just the way that he was talking to his troops and really bringing them back into this game, you can't discount that. But the other factor is that the first game he missed was the game that they won this series, and Jasprit Bumrah did an excellent job of skippering. So I think it's time for a tough call. I thought Shubman Gill was really stiff to miss this match.
Yeah.
I think he's probably one of the batsmen that Australia fear the most from this Indian lineup. So I think it's time for the changing of the guard. I would love to see Jasprit captain, and I would love to see Shubman Gill back into this side.
Yeah, I'm not as definitive as you, Maxi. I'm leaning towards the same. I think India need to make the tough call and cut Rohit Sharma for this test. They said the example, and it's only a one-off test, but the fact that the test that he missed, the opening one of the series, that they went out and won convincingly with Bumrah as captain, that's telling as well. If it was any other scenario other than series deciding, retaining the Border Gavaskar Trophy, the World Test Championship, there's so much on the line. I'd go give him one more crack for what this man has done for Indian cricket for such a long time. He deserves one last crack to get himself back into form. But with so much on the line, this is where the big calls have to be made. And as you said, he's obviously got a big influence on this playing group, so well respected as the captain. He'll still be in and around the group. He'll still have a say on things, but he just won't be out there performing. So, yeah, it's an interesting call and a massive one for the Indians to make heading into that fifth test at the Sydney Cricket Ground that I'll be in attendance at. Are you going to it, Maxie, or not? You're a Sydney sider, or has family duties and father duties got in your way this time around?
Oh, mate, I think that this is something, a spectacle that I don't want to miss. So I'll be absolutely trying to make my way there to day one and or day three. So watch this space.
I'll be day one. Can't wait for it. Guys, let us know in the comments. Should Rohit Sharma be dropped, be axed by the Indians for the final test, or do they give the man one more crack? Maxie, moving on to the Big Bash, and I want to talk about the Melbourne Stars because, barring a miracle, they are gone from BBL 14 and they will not be playing in the finals. It's the 13th BBL season. They've never won it. They've been runner-up 3 times, but not since the 2019-2020 Big Bash season. This will be their 4th consecutive season missing the finals. They're a big club. They've been anchored for a long time by 2 of the best white ball cricketers in world cricket in Glenn Maxwell and Marcus Stoinis. They attract big names. Why are they so poor, mate? Because as I said, one of the most underperforming clubs in Australian sport. What's your take on it?
I just think they've got the recipe wrong when it comes to squad management and the type of skills that are required in order to go far in this tournament. And I think that this is something that I've become extremely cognizant of within the last 5 seasons. But last season was a fantastic advertisement for what it takes to win the Big Bash. Now, there are tournaments of T20 cricket all around the world that rely on big hitting batsmen, scores over 200, impact subs, and hitting as many sixes as possible to win. But that's just not the case for the Big Bash. And there are a couple of factors in that, namely that the grounds we play in Australia are very large, and the conditions for batting aren't always that favourable. They do suit the bowlers. What we've learnt so much about winning the Big Bash is that it comes down to the calibre of your bowlers. The best bowling attacks, the sides that take the most wickets, they're the one who lift the trophy at the end of the year. You've even got to look at the bowling attacks of the best three teams consistently in this tournament, and the Perth Scorchers, the Sydney Sixers, and now the new team, the Brisbane Heat, who are absolutely spearheaded by Xavier Bartlett, up and coming Australian player, and Spencer Johnson as well. To see that it's bowlers that win, and when you look at that Melbourne Stars list, that is the glaring absence from their side. And to really illustrate this point, I want to highlight two changes that they've made since they last made that grand final. Now, the first one is that Marcus Stoinis has moved from opening the batting, which he did with aplomb for many seasons, often topping the run scorers list, to the middle order. Now, middle order batting, it's way more difficult. You've got to come and go from ball one. The field is back, and it's difficult. And Stoinis has absolutely got the ability, but him moving from the opener's spot, he's not batting in the power play consistently anymore. That's been a big change since they last made the final. And the other thing is Harris Ralph. Harris Ralph as a import for them was extremely effective, but when he was most effective was bowling those really tough death bowling overs, delivering 3-4 Yorkers and over. And if he wasn't bowling one at your toes, he was getting one straight past your nose. He was absolutely amazing. And so much money tied up in the investment of Glenn Maxwell, Marcus Stoinis, these big all-rounders capable of influencing the game, but I think that their list management, their inability to pay money to land quality death bowling, and not just one death bowler like they've signed in Tom Curran this year, but multiple guys who can handle the power play up front, the power surge, and the death bowling innings. I think is a factor that's massively letting them down at the moment. So I don't know necessarily what the answer is. I don't know if they need to change their import strategy to exclusively look at death bowling and quicks. I don't know if they need to move Marcus Stoinis from number 3 or 4 up to opening the batting, but something's got to change, because for a marquee team, I think they're spending too much money on guys in the middle order who aren't able to deliver the bowling overs that they desperately need.
Yeah, look, really good summary there, mate. And that's the thing that there's always a bit of a gut feel, or a perspective around T20 cricket. There is a lot of luck involved. You need things to go your way and that. But as you said, you look at it from a Big Bash perspective, the consistency of the Perth Scorchers and the Sydney Sixers year in, year out, there's a recipe to success over here, and they are doing it time and time again. And as you said, the Perth Scorchers in particular, they have this unbelievable rotation of high-quality quick bowlers that they've been with them for 4 or 5 years and the rest, and they want to stay there. They have the opportunity to, if there's an injury, they bring another quick like Matt Kelly in, or whoever it might be, Lance Morris in recent years. And off the back of that, the foundation of that, they've just been so successful. And the Sixers, they've been no different. Sean Abbott, Ben Dwarshuis spearheading this attack, and just phenomenal. So, yeah, something's got to change at the Stars. And as I said, roster management is at the focus of it, whether that is, as you said, maxing around, focusing, spreading the funds a little bit more to focus on death bowling and depth across the bowling attack. Maybe that's it. But, yeah, they've got some serious issues and they need results quickly, because hopefully they come and win every one of their remaining games and they sneak into the finals, but they face a very, very uphill challenge at this stage. Mate, a little bit of trivia to get the hairs standing on end, to get us a bit excited. You're taking on no one here, Maxie. There's no pressure. There's no rush to get your answer in. Let's see how you go. Steve Smith scored his 5th test ton at the MCG in the Boxing Day test, puts him equal third on the list with Englishman Jack Hobbs. Don Bradman, number 1 on the list with 9. Shock. The Don averaged 128.53 there. Absurd. Which Australian is number 2 on the list for centuries at the Melbourne Cricket Ground? Maxie, who do you reckon?
Oh, mate, that's a big question. And my mind is straight away going to a bunch of the big boys who played in those Aussie test teams when we used to score 500 in the first innings, roll them for about 200, go and bat for a bit more. And so I'm going to go with a guy born a short plane ride from there in R.T. Ponting.
Ooh, R.T. Ponting's not. I don't have the list in front of me. Ponting was at about number 5, I think it was. I'm going to give you one more guess.
Oh.
I'll give you one more guess. You've got the era right because most Australian Test cricket trivia questions go back to that era because it was so dominant. One more guess, Maxi.
Yeah, well, let's throw in a big burly Queenslander who's also got a lot of Test centuries in Matt Hayden.
He's done it. Oh, he saved face just. Well done, mate. Now to an Indian one, a really good one. Jaiswal scored his 12th test, and for the record, most of these stats come from Cricket Info, the greatest website of all time, arguably. So if there's a stat coming out here, probably coming from Cricket Info. Jaiswal scored his 12th test 50 in the calendar year, in the Boxing Day test. He's second on the all-time list for India, matching Sunny Gavaskar and Sachin Tendulkar. Who is number one on the list for 50s in a test calendar year for India?
Ooh, that's a really tough question. And again, you just got to sort of think of the big boys when it comes to this question. I'm going to go to a guy who is still playing at the moment and has had some phenomenal years, and I'm going to guess Virat Kohli.
It is not Virat Kohli. You get one more guess, mate. He is retired.
Okay, so we're talking about a retired great.
Retired great.
Yep. Let's go with the wall, Rahul Dravid.
Oh, I knew you were going to go Dravid. It wasn't, mate. It was the man with the do-rag, Virender Sehwag, 13 50s in a year. I don't have the strike rate in front of me for those, but it would have been about 120 as well. One of the most entertaining cricketers we have ever seen, Viru. So, yeah, the great man, one of the most attacking and, game-changing openers in world cricket. Now, mate, let's get to part two of the show, the World Team of the Week, the part of the show that we get you up to scratch on all the best performances in world cricket from the past week, or in this case, about 10 days. We've scoured every major fixture, both domestic and international, to vote on a World Team of the Week. We then give our 3-2-1 for best performance in the world for the corresponding week, with the votes going towards the Race for the Mace. The Race for the Mace leaderboard, each player's points go towards their tally for their country. We determine the winning nation each month and keep an ongoing leaderboard all year round. The criteria: heavier weight into international cricket, then to avoid major bias, domestic Australian cricket needs to be a superb performance to get a point. Now, this week it dates back to December 19. Maxi, you were looking after the Big Bash. I have the New Zealand and Sri Lanka T20s, two of them. Pakistan versus South Africa ODI, second and third. Zimbabwe and Afghanistan test. Lots of runs in that game. And then Rando has kindly had a look at the Australia versus India fourth test for us. Pakistan versus South Africa test. Bangladesh and West Indies third T20. And Zimbabwe and Afghanistan third ODI. So plenty of cricket going on in the world this week. Now, Max, I'll start with you. We need a pair of openers. What did you find there?
Mate, there was a really good week for openers in the Big Bash. The 2 tons as well. So the first was James Vince, 101 not out of 58 for my Sydney Sixers against the Melbourne Stars. First ton after 3 90s and a successful chase by the Sixers, their highest ever at the SCG, which was fantastic. The other was young Mitch Owen, 101 not out of 64 deliveries against the Perth Scorchers, one of the best bowling attacks. This was amazing mostly for the fact that his average prior to this knock was 12. So this one really came out of the blue, but it was an amazing knock. And then David Warner last night, 86 not out of 57 deliveries, steered his Thunder to victory against the Melbourne Renegades. First 50 in 11 seasons for Warner.
Oh, stop it. So Rando had Jaiswal with his 82 in the first innings, run out, and 84 in the second innings on the fifth day. Enormous. Sammy Konstas also on that list with his 60. For myself, Patham Nissanka from Sri Lanka, 90 runs off 60 balls. They scored 164 in total. 9 of the batsmen were in single-digit scores, so a phenomenal knock there from Nissanka. And Siam Ayub, a man who's featured in this a few times this season already, with 101 off 94 balls in the ODI for Pakistan against South Africa. Mate, the openers we've come up with here was Siam Ayub and James Vince. There'll be a lot of Indians out there saying, Jaiswal, how's he not going to start? But we've given it to James Vince for that stunning century for the Sydney Sixers. So Ayub and Vince, mate, what about the middle order batsmen? Who have you found?
They got a couple. I've actually squeezed Jamie Overton from the Adelaide Strikers in there just because he's batting number 6 for them, and he's had some fantastic knocks. In the last 2 weeks, he got 45 not out from 24 deliveries to go with 1 for 32 in one match, and then he also got 2 for 27 and then 30 not out off 16 deliveries. So he's been absolutely amazing for the Adelaide Strikers. Nathan McSweeney batted number 3 for the Brisbane Heat about 2 days after being dropped from the Test side. He came out and scored 78 not out of 49 deliveries. And then Nick Hobson, the accountant from the Perth Scorchers, a blistering knock, 47 not out of 16 in really tricky conditions over at Optus Stadium, won that side of the match. So that's who I got from the Big Bash this week.
That was an unbelievable knock from Hobson. Talking about the Scorchers' success, they bring in a fringe player like Hobson and he comes out and does that and he just sitting there like, no wonder they're so successful. The depth is phenomenal. Rando had Steve Smith for his 140. Ali from Bangladesh, 72 off 41 not out, a T20 special. And Nitesh Kumar Reddy, of course, for his 114 for India against Australia. You know, batted at number 8, but with a knock like that, we're happy to put him in our middle order as a nomination. There for myself, Mitchell Hay from New Zealand, 41 not out off 19 balls for the Black Caps. This is where it gets interesting. Afghanistan, Hashmatullah Shahidi, 246 runs off 474 balls. He occupied the crease for 694 minutes. Also, the man batting, I think it's above him in the order, Ramat Shah, 234 runs off 424 balls. There was another ton in there. Afghanistan made 699 all up. Zimbabwe made 586. So, going to go out on a limb and say that there was a pretty good batting deck over there. And then the last one was Cameron Ghulam, 63 off 32 for Pakistan. Mate, our middle order lines up as Shahidi from Afghanistan, Steve Smith, Shah from Afghanistan, both double tons, hard to leave out despite the batting conditions. And then Nitesh Kumar Reddy, we've thrown in at number 6 as well. Mate, wicket keepers, who'd you find around the world?
2 from the Big Bash this week. Ben McDermott, 68 not out off only 34 deliveries at Adelaide Oval. That was an amazingly well-timed knock. And then Sam Billings, he should have been run out, but no one appealed. And then he finished with 72 not out off 72 out off 39 deliveries for the Thunder. Just a really, really good knock from him at number 5.
Lovely. For myself, a man who is an absolute freaking staple of this podcast. No, it's not Jasper Bumrah because he's not a wicket keeper, but if he did keep, he'd probably kill it. Heinrich Klaassen, the South African. 2 games, 81 off 43 and 97 off 74. Unbelievable. So locked and loaded Heinrich Klaassen. Mate, nothing for Rando in the wicketkeeper slot. What about the bowlers there, Maxi?
Plenty of good ones in the Big Bash. I'm going to shout out Lloyd Pope, 3 for 21 for the Strikers against the Melbourne Stars, mostly just for his comeback after a difficult week last week. Benny Dorshus features a couple of times. He got man of the match for a 2 for 26 and 20 not out off 8 deliveries against the Thunder and 4 for 32 against the Heat. Spencer Johnson, first game of the season, he got 4 for 20 in the Heat's lost against the Scorchers. It was an amazing performance. And Wes Agar, 4 for 32 last night for the Thunder versus the Melbourne Renegades. 7 wickets in 2 games for him.
Rando has found Corbin Bosch for South Africa. Test debut. 4 wickets in an innings. I think he had 5 for the game and 81 not out in a really, really tight affair. So a match-winning performance on debut. Phenomenal. Paddy Cummins, of course, scores of 49 and 41 with the bat and 6 wickets to his name as well. From Afghanistan, Ghazanfar, 5 for 33. Big performance there. And, of course, Jasper Bumrah, 9 wickets for the game and just key wickets. He was unplayable, the big fella. Marco Jansen, 6 wickets as well. Unlucky to miss out, but worth noting for myself. Jacob Duffy from the Black Caps, the New Zealanders, 4 for 15 off 4 overs in the T20. Brian Bennett from Zimbabwe, 5 for 95. Afghanistan made 699. So they're phenomenal figures, all things considered. And then Shaheen Afridi, 4 for 47 off his 8 overs against South Africa. Mate, our bowlers this week, we've locked in Jamie Overton in a bit of an all-rounder role. Pat Cummins did it all with a bat just about, but Overton, Cummins, Corbin Bosch, and Jasper Bumrah. Mate, the race for the mace, the 3-2-1 for the week. Who did you find?
Number 1, I gave to I think Nitish Kumar Reddy. Number 2, I gave to Jasprit Bumrah. I thought he was really amazing and probably the difference between really keeping India in that game. And number 3, had to give it to Pat Cummins. He didn't get necessarily those big milestones, but the wickets he took for the match and the runs he scored, he was led his troops around amazing. So an amazing victory.
Very nice, mate. I found Corbin Bosch, number 3. I thought he was incredible. That to do that on Test debut, to also get your team into the World Test Championships final, it's an incredible performance with both bat and ball from Bosch. So he's actually got my 3. My 2 goes to Pat Cummins, and look, I've gone with Hashmatullah Shahidi from Afghanistan for 1 vote with that big double ton against Zimbabwe. Mate, the race for the Mace. We have a new leader. And apologies for the bias, but it is the Australian summer. There's a lot of cricket. We'll be doing this in July, in June, and all that when the UK county cricket's on and the 100 and the Vitality Blast. The English will get more votes there, don't you worry, and it's going to turn all around the world. But we are in the Australian summer. Australia have gone to the top on 7 votes. India go to number 6. In second place on 6. South Africa equal second on 6. The Black Caps, New Zealand in 4th place on 5. England in 5th place on 4. That is how it stands. Australia win it for the month across the Aussie summer. It was a slow start, but they have bounced back there. Maxi, that might do us, I think, for the Cricketers Playbook, the New Year's Eve edition. Thanks for finding the time on your holiday, mate. I can see those buttons getting lower and lower on that party shirt of yours, so thank you very much, Maxi.
Appreciate it, Tim. Thanks to all the viewers for tuning in as well.
Cheers, guys. Thanks for tuning in. As we said, if you are watching on YouTube, please do us a favour and subscribe to the channel. Let us know any of your thoughts in the comment section. Get involved. Guys, have a great new year. We'll be back after the Sydney Cricket Test.